you the next 8 minutes to sort of develop some other ways of love that you're talking about.
Yes, our purpose in saying that there's a wisdom in adversity is essential to say that God reaches out to us in different ways. He often reaches out to us by allowing us to fall, by allowing us to hurt, by allowing us to go through some changes in our lives that we don't want to go through. But He uses the pain and adversity in our lives in order to strengthen, in order to get our attention often.
Okay, very good.
In order to help us to come to the understanding that we can't make it without Him, that we indeed need Him, that we need to turn to Him, and we need to commit our lives to Him. You know, the purpose, I'm convinced, behind God creating us is that we might choose to please Him. I think that it is His goal.
It's a choice that you're saying?
Yes, that God wants us to choose to please Him. To please Him is to serve Him. To serve Him is to love Him. And so when we're loving God, we are loving all people. I think Rick Warren makes the point in his book, in the chapter referred to as What Matters the Most. He says that the lesson that God wants us most to learn is how to love Him and how to love people. All right? Good. And so once we're on the track of trying to love God, trying to love other people by pleasing God, then we're on the God-ordained track for our life. We're in His purpose. And so He allows and uses pain and problems and whatever we go through.
That's the
He
wisdom
allows it. That's the
wisdom
of pain, the wisdom of adversity.
Very good.
Dr. Charles Stanley of In Touch Ministries out of Atlanta, Georgia, has written a book called How to Handle Adversity. And I think one of the ways we best handle it is by trying to live a life pleasing to God. And the wisdom of God will instruct us and inform us and enable us to accept the pain in our life and also to see how God is using it and making it work together for good, for our good, and for the good of those who love Him as well.
And so in a real sense, and you would say that there is some kind of spiritual connection that guides us once we tune in with God, that there is really, we can only have access to the Spirit and recognize that we have access to the Spirit by believing and doing the will of God. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, well, I think that once we choose God, once we turn to Him, I think He becomes more active in our lives. But I think He is there from the beginning. I think He is there from the beginning, guiding and leading as far as we will allow Him to. But once we turn to Him, once He achieves the goal of getting us to turn to Him, which often involves allowing us to make bad decisions, allowing us to experience some of the consequences of our bad decisions. And I think there are times when God decides to bring pain in our lives as a part of His effort to get us to choose Him. Because His goal is to help us to become more like His Son, Jesus. And to become more like Jesus is to grow in kindness, is to grow in patience, is to grow in forgiveness, is to grow in being unselfish, is to grow in being compassionate and kind and caring and giving to other people. So this is God's goal. He wants us to become more like His Son, and He knows that in order to achieve that goal, He's got to allow us to go through some things, to hurt, to be disappointed, to be frustrated, to have some losses in life related to physical death. So God allows and uses our pain and our frustration, the adversity in our lives, and He makes it all work together for our good to help us to grow spiritually.
You know, Dr. Poe, all of that brings me to think about the spiritual. Lord, I want to be a Christian in my heart. I mean, I think that in a real sense what you're saying here is that there is a yearning that we have, and especially after we undergo some kind of pain or some kind of suffering, that idea of perhaps if we could become a Christian and something that we really desire to do, that's my interpretation of what you're saying, you know, how it would have an impact upon me.
Yes, I think that God, having put a part of His Spirit in each of us. That Spirit reaches out in us or inspires us to reach out to God, to turn to God, to live for Him, to please Him. And until we turn to God, I think it was one great saint who says, our soul is restless until it finds rest in God. So there's an emptiness in us until we find God, until we begin to try to live our lives pleasing to Him. There's an emptiness there that nothing else can fill. And by the way, let's go back to pain, because I think that the pain that we struggle to overcome, the pain that we struggle to escape often, the pain that we struggle to neutralize through drugs and sex and alcohol and food, okay? The pain that we struggle to escape from is a pain that God allows so that He can use it